All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode from at the Anup Zombie Studio. Sorry about that. And this is episode number 9. And today we are continuing on our mental health series, and we have Juhi Jaiswal with us, and she was there in the last episode as well on mental health. And thank you, Juhi, for joining us in the studio. And we have also brought Namrata with us today, so she is going to be talking about something different than last time that we did. And today's topic is something that is a bit of a mystery. It's always been a mystery. It's always been a big mystery. There's no denying that it was frowned upon for ages in India. Just the topic of something like love or dating or relationship itself would send shivers down the spine of your parents at one point. But now it is something that is talked about. But there are still teething issues where people are still trying to figure out a lot of things. Like right from the basic questions, it is quite the mystery. So let me welcome you, Namrata, to the Anup Zombie Studio.
Thank you.
And also this program is in association with Real Free Market India. If you guys are on X, please join in at Free Market IND, which I'll be putting it up in a while, and you can join that account. And basically we talk about civic issues. Mental health is a civic problem that is occurring right now. So it is part of our drive to help people with their personal issues. So all right, so how are you guys doing? Namrata, if you could tell us something about yourself. I mean, like, are you from, like, your background and things like that, if that will help.
Yeah. Yes, I am doing good. Thank you for asking. And I am basically from Maharashtra, from Nasik, and I've been talking a bit about my professional background. I've been into practicing as a psychologist, as a psychotherapist since 2022. I did my master's from a college in Bangalore and then did my PG diploma in counseling psychology from Xavier's, Mumbai. And yeah, since then I've been practicing and helping people out.
All right. Juhi, okay. Of course, we have introduced her in the last episode. She's also a psychologist and has been practicing for a few years now. And it's great to have both of you on the show. So my first question really is, like, let's start with the elephant in the room. So what is this whole thing called love? This crazy thing called love, as the Queen song goes. Is it just a feeling? Is it something that words can do? Is it an action? Is it a choice? Or does it reflect something much more deeper? What is it? Or is it a chemical reaction? What is going on with this whole thing, and how should people actually put something like this in perspective, when they think about something like that? I will go with you first, Juhi, on this one. How would you describe this?
Okay, so there was this quote I read somewhere and it's really stuck with me. And I think it very nicely defines what love is and isn't. It says love is giving someone the ability to destroy you, but trusting them not to. So it's a very deep thought that, you give someone that power over you, but you trust them that they will not misuse it and they will not abuse that power. And once we'll be talking about this a little bit later in this show, how we kind of sometimes give away our power to someone and get into toxicity and things like that. But yeah, speaking of love, I think that for me, that is what love is. So yeah.
Right. How about you, Namrata? How would you talk about love?
Building on to that, I think what Juhi said really, I think it's very powerful. And to add on to that, I think love comprises of a lot of components. There's a lot of things that would mean that would contribute to love. For example, there's understanding, there's trust, there's respect, there's vulnerability, empathy, and a lot of collaboration, cooperation. Together, these components, when they come together, and we choose to act in these ways, like I choose to be understanding, I choose to be empathetic towards my partner, or in my relationships as well. So when we choose on a consistent basis and we commit to that, I think on a whole that would mean love to me.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a combination of of a lot of things, right? Like, so like there was a time when people say, I did this for you, and you didn't, sort of reciprocated back or something like that, and they would consider that as a big thing for some reason, for some personal choice reason, or they would have even buying some flowers would mean having to have it reciprocated in some way, right? Like, so where do people actually draw the line here? How do they cope with something like this? Do a lot of people understand how to uh, how to show this? How does that work with people based on your experience of people around that as psychologists that you have? Juhi, how about you?
I think that's a tricky question actually. A lot of people don't understand that and get offended or feel disrespected when someone doesn't reciprocate their feelings. And then there are those people who do understand that it's not a one-way street. It has to be a two-sided thing, otherwise it won't work. So a lot of awareness, and through a lot of our work we try and get people to this understanding that it cannot be one sided, and if it is one sided it is problematic. You need to let go of it. And on that note, like, I've seen so many movies, especially so many Bollywood movies, that romanticize this idea of someone going crazy for someone, or like running after them, stalking them even, and consider all of that as love. So our idea of love is very skewed when it comes to when it comes to what it really means, because if you see the movies, if you listen to the songs that we listen to, they are obnoxious to say the least.
Right.
And those are the areas, like those are the things that help us form our ideas around love, right? Apart from our interaction with our parents and our caregivers and our first ideas of what love looks like, that is like a whole different segment. But when you think of where do we get our ideas of pop culture, right? So that's where it comes from, and it's highly problematic, and people need to start understanding that it's not okay to stalk someone just to say that you love them and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I think it's
yeah, so
really,
so the yeah, Namrata, please go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just building on that. I think it's really important to understand how far you can go for someone in love.
Right, right. So I mean, I understand the popular culture reference because at the end of the day, even I have always wondered, like, is this how directors of movies actually perceive love, or are they just doing it to because they think that the people want it? Like, it's almost like, oh, okay, this is the way people have always perceived it, so I'm going to make a movie just like that. It's so strange that, like, these directors who spend a lot of money making these movies make these movies along these premises time and time again. It's not just one or two movies. It's like it's always been happening. So this is really affecting people's mindset, right? Like, in general, like,
It
people
is.
like, I don't know how is it affecting people in urban places a little more than it is affecting people in, like, the rural areas, or is it like the same thing? Everybody feels like that is the understanding of love. Like, I'm not sure if that do you find students or people or things like that from different areas who feel that differently, or it is just anyone who watches it who gets caught on to that stigma? Where do you actually draw the line between, like, some healthy devotion, right? I mean, like, there is something called, like even in religious aspects there is also healthy devotion, and there is obsession, extremism with it. And I guess in this case as well, there is something that makes it healthy, and there is something else that kind of makes this feeling very toxic at the end of the day, where you can go to extreme lengths to either prove something or take it all away, or just drown the whole thing up. Like, how does all this manipulation, and where is the balance created here?
Yeah.
That how about you, Namrata, on this one?
I think it's very important to understand how far are we going in love, and I think we should go as far as we're feeling safe. But then again, the definition of safety might be different for everyone. Let's say, for example, if someone has an idea of being in love without boundaries, or if someone has grown in a chaotic environment, for them that is familiar and that is safe. So for us humans and for our brains, familiarity and safety goes hand in hand. So it's important to understand psychological safety, where one is able to express their opinions and disagree without worrying that the other person is going to react. That's where we can say that as long as you think that there is safety being created or there is work being put to create that safety together, you can go as far. What do you think, Juhi?
Yeah.
And I think here, when you said manipulation and all these things that come into picture, with then now we see there are red flags or green flags in like, we're hearing this a lot. So what do you think, Juhi, on that?
So I think this is something that came to my mind a few weeks back. I was just reading about red and green flags, and I was just thinking, if you're wearing green colored goggles,
Uh-huh.
everything is gonna seem green to you. Even a red flag is gonna seem green to you. And
Yeah,
if you're
damn.
wearing red colored goggles, you're gonna see everything as red, including the green flags.
Yeah,
So I think we need to be very mindful of the fact that our perception, our upbringing, our environment, our experiences, and all of these things that make us unique are also the things that sort of color our judgment. And
Right.
to be objective is difficult, but it's not impossible. You can be objective while looking at your own life, people in your life, situations in your life. And I think one of the best ways to understand if something is a red flag or a green flag is to see if it doesn't make you feel comfortable or doesn't make you feel comfortable, right? So if there is something which is evoking a stress response in you, then you would want to sort of stay away from that kind of a situation or that person. Whereas if you feel that you're being taken care of, you are being, and when I say being taken care of, I don't mean getting attention, because attention and love are two very different things, right? So when I'm
yeah,
talking about getting that kind of care and concern and affection, that's when it seems that those are the things that could be a green flag. But if you're thinking of red flags, sometimes a lot of over concern also seems like a green flag, but it's really not. If someone's constantly asking you, where are you? With whom are you? What time are you coming back? Why didn't you take me with you? This
yeah.
feels like a lot of attention and a lot of care and concern, but it's actually not. This is like almost stalking
Track keeping.
someone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes in these movies they glorify these things. So it's like
And that's so
again it'll be like,
problematic.
oh, you didn't call me, so then you don't care.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like the opposite kind of thing. Are there any books that people can read on this? Do you suggest any articles or something like that that you know? Movies are absolutely useless. That's been established at this point. But are there any
Luckily,
kind of
there are
books?
good movies now, I guess.
There
At least
are.
some. Probably
like
building on
which one do you think is a good movie to watch to really understand love? Like what would you suggest to people to watch? Like well, I can't think of one.
Are you
Right from
thinking of a
West Side
movie and not
Story,
being
I
able
think
to
I
come up with it?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm saying, are you thinking of a movie and not being able to come up with one?
I
can't
think
think of a single movie.
there's this movie I really
Okay,
like, which is
okay.
it's Bollywood movie, Rocky and ki Prem Kahani,
This
something.
was
Alia and Ranveer's.
okay, all
So I'm
right.
not promoting and anything. It's just my opinion.
Got it. We are just
It's just
discussing
my
a movie.
opinion.
That's about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I think that movie really portrays a lot of Indian cultural aspects and love between two people and how much work it takes to actually make it work. I think that's one movie I've really liked, and I think it's progressive in that way. From what we've been
Okay,
seeing in the past, I think now it's slightly that
Interesting. Now I'm gonna
all
go
right.
and watch this one.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so I
that's
mean,
why I
like
was like, yeah, there are, but I'm not sure how many. And
yeah,
then
I mean,
people
like
might have different
I
opinions
also
on
just
that movie
this
as well.
question just popped in my head, so I was also
Yeah.
thinking, are there actually any movies that would I mean, like even Hollywood, whatever it is, like I'm struggling to find
Even
something that I can confidently refer to a friend and say, hey, you know what, this is what you kind
yeah,
of should probably look at.
yeah. Even this movie Thappad, Now,
Right.
again, there will be controversy. People will have different opinions, but I'm just saying that it just creates, let's say, some awareness and how people can go about it. Yeah.
Right. So,
Part was a very realistic depiction of what love should not be,
right.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a very understated movie. I feel
And
it's
yet,
not.
huh.
Yeah, sorry.
I was just saying that yet people have opinions. Like some people have liked it, some people have not. So again, what to
Yeah, that's because
confidently
probably they are influenced by the other movies, right? They're
other
like, hey,
movies.
this
Yeah,
ain't gonna
exactly.
work.
But we can
So,
still say that these are progressive movies, and yeah, as Juhi also rightly pointed out, that yeah, it's underrated in a
yeah,
way,
that
and
this is my point. That movie is probably underrated because it does not follow the exact norms of like
Yeah,
how people are thinking, and that's kind of probably why directors are afraid to make movies outside
moves like that.
that storyline,
yeah, yeah.
and that thing itself. So yeah, yeah. We've got to like punish the movie industry a little bit at some point. So I don't mind bashing them a little.
There is this book that I read long time back, but it's a really good book. It's called All About Love,
Right.
and it talks about the different forms of love that it can take: romantic love, between a parent and a child, and it's a very comprehensive book about love. So if someone wants to read about sort of forms of love or what shapes and forms love can take, it's a really nice book to read. And it's very well written, like it's very easy to read. It's not like it has a lot of jargon and stuff. So very smooth reading and very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So this is all about love by which author did you say? Sorry, I missed that.
Bell Hooks or Bell Brook, I'm not sure.
Okay. So all about love. Okay. So all right. So if anyone wants to actually have some reading material, that's a good one to go. Now, I mean, there are various kind of attachment styles, right? I mean, like at the end of the day, I think it really depends on the type of person you are. Some people are anxious about like everything, So let's say you have a partner who's anxious and stuff like that about everything. It probably requires another partner who knows how to deal with that anxiety as well, right? Or there may be disorganized people or avoidant, or you do bring your own kind of tendencies into any relationship. You do
Yes.
bring something that you grew up with, some fear, or could be abandonment, or could be anything, right? So how are people, in a relationship, how are people supposed to cope with all of these things? And like it could be as simple as you having dinner at a restaurant on your first date, and the guy says, oh, I'm not a non-vegetarian, I don't eat anything, or something like that. It could be, even that could be construed as a turn off for the other side, because they could probably have a very big emotional attachment to food, right? Like something very emotionally binding. So how do you think our attachment styles shape our relationships, or the way people love each other? Are there any thoughts on that?
I think Namrata
Yeah.
should take this one.
Okay, Namrata, yeah, please do. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
She's the
Yeah.
expert on attachment styles.
No, I'm
Oh,
no
really?
expert.
Oh, okay.
I'm no
Let's go.
expert. But since you were asking about books, I think there is another book called Attached.
Okay.
It's by Amir Levine and Rachel. So I read this book recently, and I think this book is really a good read for anyone who wants to understand what is attachment in the first place, attachment theory, and what are these different attachment styles, how to understand where you are at, how to understand where a potential partner or your current partner is at, and how to sort of navigate the relationship. So I think it's helpful to first understand then what are these different types and how do they look like. So maybe we can just go through that if
Sure.
yeah. So first of all, attachment, what attachment means is how we are relating ourselves in relation with other people, in relation to other people. So it's not necessarily a romantic partner. It could also be your friends, family members. So basically, how we relating ourselves. These are some subconscious rules that you formed very early on in life, probably in the first 2 years, 5 years of your life, and that's the impact that it gets impacted at a
Hold on. You mean like the foundation level of this thought is right from that age, like when you're 5 years old?
yeah. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Because how your primary caregivers have paid attention to you, given care to you. So basically your very first attachment is going to be with your primary caregivers, probably mother, father, or anyone else who was primarily there around you. That's when initially that attachment emerges. Yeah, right from breastfeeding to feeding, talking, all of this starts right there. And we learn a lot of these things right in the first few years of our lives. And that has the capacity to also shape our adult relationships.
It's like a blueprint for your life.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And it's
forms like a
crazy
blueprint,
because
Yes.
and
this
when
this
you
shows how much parents need to be very careful in those first formative years of the 5 years, so your kid when they grow up has a chance of a good relationship, right? It's not like something that you can just do what you want and then hopefully your kid will learn along the way at some point that
yeah,
easily.
you can't wing it.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I'd known that sooner. It would have helped a little bit, I think. Okay. So, wow, to 0 to 2 and until 5 years, I think. Also, when you hit the teens, also as well, there is another kind of an injection into your system, right? Like there is
Yes.
some.
So to add to that, it's like even if a certain attachment style was formed in your early years, it's not necessary that it's going to stay like that only. There are a lot of environmental factors as well eventually that will affect your attachment style. Let's say someone who was consistent, they had a bad experience in their relationships with friends or a very bad breakup, and after that their attachment style sort of changed. So that also has the power to influence. So it's like on a spectrum. We can't really box one person in one attachment style. So there are four basically: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. These are the primarily four.
What are the four again? Anxious? Sorry.
A secure, first is secure attachment style.
Right.
And the rest three are insecure attachment styles. And
Okay.
those are anxious, or we also call it preoccupied anxious. Avoidant is dismissive avoidant, the other name. Disorganized is also called as fearful avoidant. Okay.
Right.
So it's very clear from the words itself that secure would feel more secure in relationships, would be able to easily give love, accept and receive love. In short,
Right.
anxious people are anxious in their relationships, whereas by partner, so like that keeping a track, or
Right.
if let's say they are not available for some time, their system gets sort of activated and they might act up in different ways. It can look different to everyone,
Right.
those who fall under that. Then there's avoidant, who like to take their space, who sort of are fearful when somebody tries to get close to them. So they would sort of
Sounds like me. Like,
yeah. So
right.
somewhere around that. Of course, there are a lot more to describe there, but this is just in short. And disorganized is fearful avoidant, which means they deeply want love. They are fearful of losing out on their loving partners. They have abandonment wound, but they also at the same time fear love. So if someone tries to come close, they will push it away. So that's slightly confused. And
Yeah, I was just wondering about the terminology. So it says disorganized. Does that mean like you just don't know what that person like?
sometimes,
it's very
yeah,
haphazard kind of a thing.
it's slightly confusing. More than slightly, it gets very confusing. They find it difficult to trust the environment. So it's like they want love, so they would want to attract someone, but at the same time when the person would get close to them, they will also push it away. So the other person might feel, hey, what, I'm confused. So that can leave the other person confused.
Right.
But also to say that again, we can't box in one category,
Yeah.
because some people are, let's say, disorganized in one relationship dynamic
Right.
with other aspects. So it's not possible, and not everyone is 100% every attachment style. Even secure people are going to have insecurities.
Yeah, everybody is going to have a slight percentage of these
Slight
things,
different
no?
here and there.
You
Yes,
couldn't
yes.
have grown up that
And-
like 100% well
Yeah.
at some point.
And the good point is that it's possible to form secure attachments. Even if you're a disorganized, you can still form secure attachment style. You can heal those wounds. So it's not necessary that you're going to stay in one place. So rather looking it as a hierarchy, we can just look at it in a spectrum that, okay, it can vary in different dynamics.
Let's talk about the real world scenario right now. Like, Are there people who actually know this? I mean, like, like in general, like logically, the way you think, you would think like this. So even I didn't know these four terms existed at all. So I mean, like, how does one go about even approaching? Like, first of all, they'll have anxiety for to go and talk to the person that they like, right? That's one of the first things. What makes people confident? Is there any criteria that makes some people more confident than others to go and approach somebody and say that, hey, I care, or whatever it is that, to form a relationship of this sort? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Juhi, would you like to go?
I don't think there is anything specific that makes someone more confident or less confident. I think it's just about how much faith you have in yourself and how much courage do you muster to go up to someone and say, hey, you know what, I think I like you.
Even thinking of
Because
that freaks me out. Like, I don't know how we actually do that.
To add to that, talking about confidence, I think one thing that can help is awareness. Probably getting aware where you are at. What is your style, maybe attachment style. If you're talking about attachment, just being aware that, okay, this is how I am. This is how I probably then need to approach in terms of even approaching and receiving vulnerability. And I guess that's when you navigate that, you will learn a lot about yourself, and you will work through your confidence concerns, and that's how slowly a person might become confident.
Right. So yeah, even this is kind of a very very tricky thing. Like, first you kind of have to look at somebody and then put them under a certain category of type of people, right? But
No, no,
when you add love and all that into the equation, nobody's going to think logically. So, like, I have had friends who call their better halves, angels and stuff like that and all of that, and they're divorced within like 6 months. Like, it's so strange for me because, like, you do go through what your friends go through as well in their life, right? Friends and family as well. I mean, like, if you are a human, you've seen someone in your family go through a rough divorce, or you go through rough relationships, or being under suppressed or an oppressive kind of, you do see these things, and I think they also affect you to a certain degree, right? I know a lot of people who have seen this who say that they don't want a relationship that's close, right? So what kind of a thing would you put them under? Would you put them under a secure category or like an insecure category? Like people who say, hey, you know what? Yeah.
Don't want to be close.
Don't?
People who don't want to be close, like
Yeah, people who don't. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that will come under
that would
like
be insecure.
disorganized, is it? That would
No,
be
no,
insecure.
not disorganized. Any of the three categories, but on the insecure side, because secure people feel comfortable giving and receiving love.
What about people who don't want love and all that? Are they okay in their life? Would you suggest that to people? Like, how would you go about saying, okay, so would you say it is okay?
I think there are two possible
I'm asking
reasons.
like tricky questions here because my
No.
head is going haywire on that. So
It's okay.
I'm just because I do know people who have like said, hey, I don't care, it is what it is.
I think there are two possibilities here. If one is saying that I don't want love out of a concern of or a fear of it or anything where they haven't worked, like they're running away in terms of, no, I don't want to work in this area because it's too much probably, then coming from that aspect would mean that, okay, they might have to work on a few areas. Other perspective could be
Right.
that that person knows that this is the case. I have healed or I have not, but I consciously chose that I don't want this to be a part of my life, and it should be okay because it's their conscious choice.
Right. So this
Yeah,
brings me to,
ultimately,
Juhi.
ultimately it's a choice, right? Like, we have this very romantic view of love that you love at first sight and you fall in love and and then you rise in love and what not have the movies taught us. But if you really think about it, end of the day, like any other thing in our life, love is a choice. Like whether you continue to be consistent with it, whether you want it to be there in your life, whether you want to do the work, whether you want to sort of stay away from it, it's absolutely a choice, and everybody's free to make that choice.
Yeah.
It's not for us to judge someone on the basis of that choice, because if we were in that position, we don't know what choice we would make, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think it's okay for people to not want love or not want relationships,
Yeah.
but the reason behind that should be very clear and understood by them. Not making decisions out of misplaced fear or misplaced lack of courage. That becomes a problem then.
Yeah.
Like, if
Right.
you think you've tried to be in a relationship, you've tried getting married, or you've tried having a partner, and it doesn't work for you, it's not something that you want in your life, you're free to choose that, as you know, if you're free to say a no to that. Whereas there are people who are single and who would really want someone, they are also free to make that choice, right? But to judge someone on the basis of these choices is not fair, I think, because we don't know what, like I said, like, we don't know what we would do in those situations.
Yeah.
And everybody has a reason for the way they behave, everybody has some story behind it. So it becomes important to know that everybody is making these choices out of some experience that they've had, prior experience that they've had before.
Sometimes some
Yeah.
people just don't want to put in the work, and they might agree, like they'll accept that, and that's also okay, because it can relationships do bring up a lot of core insecurities on the surface, and it might be out of their capacity to work
They'll
through
also
that,
go through a
and it's
lot of
okay.
other social kind of stigma. You know, every party or family gathering you go to, they are going to be like, "Oh, you're not, you're not in a relationship."
But that's
Yeah.
a choice they've made, and that they kind of live with the
Again,
repercussions
you
of that
probably have to
choice.
strengthen your own self and say, okay, you know, they're going to say it anyway. So I guess
Yeah.
Yeah.
again, like
You
a
would much
lot of
rather be single than be in a wrong relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
There's
especially
still peace.
Yeah.
when a
Being.
relationship actually goes into a legal scenario, right? I mean, relationship at the end of the day, it's not just about love anymore. Like, you do sign a contract of some sort which can hurt you. I think that play a mind in young people's heads when they make their decisions, like, oh, okay, what if I do the wrong thing, and you know, somebody is maybe after money, or you know, like, it can happen both sides, right? Like, what are there any cases like that you can sort of, you know, like, does this play a factor in relationships?
I think it's very subjective.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't come across anything as such in my work. But
Right.
what about you, Namrata?
Yeah. No, even I have to think, but I think your question primarily, I think it's very subjective when you say that people might want a few aspects to be.
No. What I'm trying to figure out is, I'm trying to say, does this also factor in your decision before a relationship, right? Like, do you think, okay,
Ha,
am I
ha.
going to get into trouble? I mean, this person, I love this person, but this person looks like a troublemaker. But I can't help, you know, jumping into this pit. But, you know,
Yeah.
like, at some point, does that enter your mind, or is it just, okay, let me just, you know, go
I
ahead
think,
with it?
yeah, I think I've just seen examples here and there where they have known that, yeah, this probably is going to problematic situation, and yet chosen to be
And
in
yet
it
do it, right? I
and
mean,
given
like,
it. Yeah.
there's only one
And
way to find
whatever
out.
the consequences were. And there are people who have understood that, okay, probably this could be problematic, and then from the awareness. So where the person is at in terms of their awareness also matters. If they think that this is something they can't go ahead with and has the courage to sort of walk away, accept, or be vulnerable in that space, and then people have
Yeah.
also worked out on that basis. So I
So
think there will be
I also
examples.
think, you know, a lot of things have changed from the 80s and 90s and all of that. Like, I don't know what people used to actually do during those times to go and meet the person, you know, who you want to spend life with, or who you want to love, or you know, I really don't know. There weren't any, especially in India, other than certain urban cities. I don't think you could just like that meet. Maybe workplace, maybe a family party where somebody brought a friend, I guess, or something like that.
Arranged marriages.
Arranged marriages, yes. I mean, like, to a certain extent, I don't know where you would place that, like, you know, in your fore scheme of things of the thing. But yeah, so arranged marriages where people, so that is probably 90% of the cases, I guess, probably more of the
Back
cases that
then.
were there. Okay, now looks like people do have a choice, right? I mean, Namrata, the people do have a choice. Some people who are lucky, I guess.
Perceived sense of choice or real choice.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, so of course, let's look at the options that people have right now. Of course, there are probably clubs that you can go to, or groups that you go. Like, let's say you're a bike rider and you're part of a biker gang, or you're a traveler, you're part of a, maybe there you can meet some people. Communities are one aspect. Dating apps, another big thing, right? Like, where you can typically probably look at multiple people at the same time, which is crazy. It's tough to understand one, but you can go through like hundreds
Yeah,
of
I think
different information, and how does your brain process all of this into making the right decision? Do you guys have thoughts on how the landscape of dating has changed, over a period of time, the
People
spoil
need to
for
talk.
choice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
people need to talk enough to make a decision. With dating apps, I guess they don't even like talk enough and form a
I think
relationship or a bond.
dating apps have effectively ruined the dating scene.
Oh, really?
It was
That's
so
that's
much
that's a
Yeah,
fact.
easier.
Okay.
I mean, this is my opinion,
Sarun,
Okay.
yeah.
that if say 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, let's say 20 years ago, in the late 90s, let's say, if I had to meet someone, what were my options? Whatever were my options, they were real options. They were not virtual options, right? And these real
Right.
options had value. Now, when I talk of 2025, I'm on, I mean, I have used dating apps and I know the kind of misery they could come with, because
Really.
you suddenly have so many options. A, B, the dating apps in India are very skewed. So guys, like men rarely get matches, women get too many matches. It's all lopsided,
Yeah.
right? And even when you do get a match, if it's going to be consistent or not, it's not a given. People ghost you left, right, and center. Even
Yeah.
after months of talking, suddenly you hear no message, no call, no text, nothing from that person. And that really leaves you with, like, you have no closure. You have no sort of good feeling at the end of it. At least it was a nice experience. You can't even say that much.
It becomes very exhausting when it keeps going on. You get tired of the process.
So then, why are
It's
women on these
exhausting
apps?
because that's the only option left for us today. It's very rare that you would find someone organically, because, especially because of COVID, everybody was working from home. There was no social interaction. Even when you do go for social interactions, you may not want the exact same interest in the other person. So if I'm a biker, I may not want a partner who is a biker. I may want a partner who's a trekker, for example. You don't necessarily, so it's the opposites
You don't
attract for a
necessarily
reason.
want somebody to do the exact same thing you do, right? Like,
Exact
that's
same
also,
thing that
yeah.
you are doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also, I feel like dating apps are working because it's, how do I put it? You can be, I mean, you can, this is going to sound harsh, but you can be the best person in your real life, but on the dating app, you may come across as a complete loser just because you don't know how to navigate the dating app, what
Yeah.
are the nuances, what are some
True.
of the things that you should and shouldn't say. Like,
Hmm.
I've seen so many profiles that say, don't start the conversation with a simple hi, because can you be more creative than that? Like, it's some of it is really tacky, and you
Expectation.
don't know, yeah, and you don't know how to meet those expectations. So I feel dating apps have not done much good to us as a community as
Yeah.
such.
So
Yeah.
this is the same case all over the world, like people, or is it like specifically for India? You feel like dating apps
I've
aren't
seen this in
working?
India. I haven't used dating apps in other countries, so I wouldn't know. But this has been my experience in India.
Right. So basically, nothing has changed since the 80s. It is still tough to tough to actually get a
It is.
relationship, right? I mean, like it is quite tough. So what are people doing these days? Like, I mean, obviously the number of people who want to listen to advice from their own family to get set up has reduced to a certain extent, right? It's not as 95% as before, I'm sure. Like a lot of people. So uh, uh, are there successful relationships these days? Are there
Of
people
course
who are
there are.
able to make it a success, and things like that? So what would you say is their secret to success? Like, how are they able to make it successful?
Namrata, you want to take that?
Yeah, of course, I do agree. There are successful relationships. And what takes to have a successful relationship between like partners, I think some of the most important aspects, just how I described in the beginning, understanding the abilities. One of the most important things I feel is the ability to work through conflicts. There are going to be conflicts in a relationship. Be it the most healthy relationship, their partners are still going to fight. The important part is how do you repair those conflicts. In some cases, people don't even make an attempt to repair, it's forgotten. In other cases, it's actively denied, but it might leave both or one of the partners in a question mark, or how am I going to go about this. So to be able to work through that, to be able to regulate your emotions, so if there's anger and or other emotions, to be able to express that and regulate that, these are big star marks of a successful relationship. And also in the future, let's say family dynamics, because in India family dynamic is another part. Kids come into picture, so navigating through those areas also becomes very important in our culture. So how you're gonna give your partner as much importance while also upholding the family aspects, so to be able to navigate that. And when kids come into picture, how are you going to share your responsibilities, how they are going to feel respected, responsible, and yeah, just navigating those things becomes very important. And one, if partners are able to do that well, it should be successful.
This sounds like a lot of work. I hope we didn't convince everybody not to have relationships.
It is indeed difficult. It is very difficult.
So what are the rewards here now? Okay, all right. So, yeah.
Yes, it is. It is worth it, because at the end of the day, it's meaningful. It's purposeful. You At the end of the day, you have a safe haven. You can go somewhere where at the end of the day, your feelings you're going to feel seen and heard. I think that's something we all want. We want to feel childlike. We want to feel ourselves. And I think if a partner is able to bring that, it's all worth it.
Right. Yeah. That's I think one of the biggest things. Yeah.
I don't know which movie was this, but I saw this on a reel. There's a man and a woman talking to each other, sitting on a bar stool, and the man asks the woman, "Why do people get married?" So she beats around the bush a little bit, and then he's like, "No, I really want to know what is it that makes people marry each other." And then she says, "It's the ability to witness someone and the ability to be witnessed by someone. That's all people want."
Yeah.
Because otherwise our lives are not very meaningful. Otherwise our lives don't have that much to offer as compared to someone being there for you, someone's life that you have touched, someone's life that you have changed with your presence. I think that's what people are looking for, and it's in today's world, to be honest, it's very difficult to find. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes.
But once you find it, or once you sort of build it, then it gets easier, right? And what you had asked earlier, Anup, about what is the secret sauce. Well, the secret sauce, in my opinion, is the fact that always remembering that you two are on the same team, and it's us against the world. You have to have each other's back no matter what. You're like a basketball team or a cricket team, right? You're playing, it's the game of life, and you're playing a sport, and if you're not gonna be playing well with your teammate, then you're gonna lose the match. So
right, it is a great power play when you and your better half, lack of a better word for that, they can stand up for yourselves. Like, I guess a lot of the times when you say, hey, we don't want that, when you tell somebody else who's attacking one person in the family, and both of you stand up, and put that thing across. I think those are very, very powerful things, and I think it is stages as well, right? So All right, so you're a lone wolf now, and then now you have one more in your team, and then like you said, like it's like a thing. You will probably add one or two more in your team, and then you kind of you keep growing, right? Even I think mentally also you change. Like there is something in you that just it's like a switch. I think that just probably goes off for these people. So yeah, I get that. So I mean, like to kind of understand the final aspects of this, let's look at what are your advice for anyone who's looking for a potential partner? Like beyond the surface, are there any tricks and tips that you can offer? Like, okay, you ask yourself these 3 or 4 questions, and it's a red flag, or you ask these 3 or 4 questions, right? Or how do you spot them early on, right? How do you spot the right ones a little early, and how do you weed out the wrong ones? If Namrata or Juhi, or anyone can take this one.
Yeah. So I think more than focusing on what's right, what's wrong, what's red, what's green, because people are going to have a mix of that. Important part that I feel is, are these two people who are coming together or in any other relationship, are people ready to put in the work, to change if something is a barrier or if something is causing a lot of conflicts? Are they ready to work on this? So it can be by communicating, it could also be going for therapy and things like that. So to be able to work through things, to have that willingness that yes, I want to work through it, and not just showing it in your actions, and you have to wait for that, so because it takes time to see it in action. I think that's just one thing.
Like, okay, Namrata, let's talk like actual brass tacks. What are your 3 top red flags? You see someone who's like this, you just don't want to go near that person. Like, what would that be?
I'll have to think. I can't answer that.
For me, I'll start. For me, food is
Okay, but why don't you go?
like,
I'll think. Can build on it.
I think food. I think if somebody just says, they're not going to eat certain things, I'm going to be like really turned off. Like literally, like I want to get away. I don't care about the rest of the abilities of that person.
So apparently that's a red flag for you.
I'm off. Yeah, we are talking real world stuff here. Like we were talking real, real
Yeah.
things here. I'm in the next metro out of here. So that I think is one. And yeah, probably little too insecure. Also, I really can't take this, because from my point of view, if someone's like too insecure about something, it means like I cannot like look too far ahead. Like being the kind of personality that I just want to forge on ahead. Like somebody being too insecure, I felt. But you're right.
Yeah.
I think you kind of learn these things much earlier in life, because I was always like this, not just in the relationship of love per se, but even with certain friends, right? You kind of see it like you wouldn't kind of associate with certain friends in a certain way who actually have these traits that are red flags as well, right? You actually don't, right? So basically you got to be smart, no, to have a good relationship and know yourself well. I guess that's another thing.
You have to understand what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and that's why the reds and greens are going to look different for everyone.
Right. Is there a specific age that people need to go out and look for these relationships, or or is it like is there something that you've seen, like, okay, should you be 22? What
Not
if you're
really,
40
no.
and that's the time you decide to go out, looking
Absolutely
for love?
fine.
No
Even
problem
if
at all.
no, why would there be a problem?
Okay, so it just depends on how you're.
Even a 14-year-old can have feelings, fall in love for whatever meaning they associate, and it's valid because they also have valid feelings.
Yeah,
So
they would
I
have got
think
an injection of hormones also at that time when you're 14 years old, that you kind of like it is almost an unavoidable reaction that you start getting, like looking at people slightly differently and all of that, right? So you can't blame anybody.
But and it's real, and there are people who have dated like right from that time and they are married and have had a successful relationship. So I don't think there's any part to that. What about you, like Juhi? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think there's an age for love. I think love conquers all, and love is something that can happen to you anytime, any stage of your life. It can happen more than once,
Yeah.
and it is something that is beautiful, but it's only beautiful if you make it beautiful. It's not something that just happens on its own and it'll take care of itself, and how easily they show it in movies. It's not that easy. That's not how the real world works. Like anything worth having, I think it requires a lot of work, a lot of commitment, and a lot of awareness that, what's happening, where are things going, and I think it's very important for a successful relationship to happen. It's really important that you gauge the other person really well and sort of try to provide for their needs as much as they provide for yours. It cannot be a one-sided affair. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. We
Right. Any
should
any
take
final
time.
thoughts, Namrata, as well? Like, what would you like to say to the viewers on love, relationships, and things like that? Like,
I,
what would be your final thing be to them before you send them out into the world?
I think who you choose to live with is going to be one of the most important decisions one can make. And so I don't think don't rush, take it slow, and be mindful, be aware more in all.
Right. That's actually great advice. You've got to take it slow, right? I mean, like, you can't force the issue because people don't react that well to anything being forced upon them at any time. Like,
Along
as
with
long
being slow, being aware. People can
being
be
aware.
slow, they can take time, but without the awareness, that it won't make sense. So building awareness is I think that's something I, in general, also abide by a lot. Like,
Right.
be aware. Awareness is very important.
How about you, Juhi? Final thoughts?
I think the biggest thing would be to have faith in whether it's in love or whether it's in your partner or it's in yourself. I think for me, having faith is one of the most important and crucial things when it comes to life and living. So, even if you want to make it through tough times, and if you want the relationship to last, and if you want the relationship to survive all odds, then having faith within the relationship, within each other, is really important.
Yeah,
So,
I
have the
Right.
faith.
agree.
Two big things: keep the faith and stay aware. Stay aware and keep the faith. I like that. That's a name for a song. You can probably.
Yeah, actually, two good, really combinations. You're aware, there's faith, done.
Anyway, guys, that brings us to the end of our hour for the show. And thanks, Juhi. As always, a pleasure to have you on the
Thank
Anup
you.
Zombie podcast. And you seem to have a lot of friends.
I wait.
Thank you so much. Sure.
And everything. I think we would have gone live on LinkedIn for the first time. I don't even know if that stream is running. I just have to check that out. But we did go live on LinkedIn, and we are on YouTube and X as well. So anyway, guys. So if you have any questions, do drop them. I think a couple of questions were dropped in last time, which I think Juhi managed to answer on our last episode. So the same thing will happen. If you guys have any questions or just really need somebody to talk to, just talk to us, and we'll do the needful. And thank you guys for coming on the show, and thank you for watching on all your channels. And from everybody here at Real Free Market and at the Anup Zombie Studio, it's good night from us. See you later.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.